Barely VR News, interviews from the archives. GTC, interview with Nuts.
Oh yeah, definitely. I got my coffee. So
Let me go see if if there's anything that would make it up.
sorry, my brain was so on a different track just now. When you joined, I was like, wait,
I'll just eat my cupcake.
there you go, nice. Yo, so I totally unrelated question, but could be useful for content. You're no longer on Silly, right? Tell me.
Yeah, I wanted to focus on just being not being biased, not being on a team since I'm higher up in the.
Tell me a little bit about your new team though, because aren't you on a team now?
I made an all-girls team for a bit, and it went well. We won a bunch of things I wasn't expecting. Not many girls are that into comp, but we finally went against Silly in season, and we lost. And after that, I disbanded so I can focus on staff.
And the team name was Gorilla Gals, right?
Yep.
That's so sick. That's actually amazing because on average, I would say there's not very many female players for Gorilla Tag.
That was a bit of a struggle because there's not a lot of people that invested in it. We're also girls, but we did it. We made it far in season before we disbanded.
All right, so there's about 10 questions, and they're not too complicated. First question is, how did you first get into Gorilla Tag?
Oh, how did I first get into Gorilla? Well, Deez first got into Gorilla Tag because Deez is my partner, saw a bunch of stuff on TikTok about Gorilla Tag. And then he was playing every single day, and I was getting so annoyed with him all the time for spending so much time playing Gorilla Tag. So I would keep telling him to get off, and finally he decided to get me a headset because he's like, maybe if she starts playing, then she can stop complaining about me playing. So then I got into Gorilla that way, got me the headset.
That's actually awesome. All right, next question is, what attracted you to GTC specifically?
I think like many other comp players, I was getting bored with the current state of comp and I wanted to see more come out of comp. And when I heard about GTC, one of the board members approached me, an older member in the community, trusted, and asked if I could help out. And I was so excited about all the ideas they had and really impressed by it. And never expected it to get this big, but I'm really glad it did because a lot of work went in it. But I'd say that's what got me into
Awesome.
and kind of being bored at what stage comp was at the moment.
All right, cool. It's funny because that's one of my friends told me about GTC. And so day one of invites being open, I joined and I saw Pig was in there. And I immediately messaged Pig, was like, hey, what do you think of this new league? Because I've never been involved in any other leagues at all. And he was like, oh, my friends run it. I fully endorse it. I was like, oh, I'm in on this.
Now you are the voice of GTC.
Still hard to comprehend that a little bit. All right, this is a really good one. Can you share a moment from your career that was particularly like rewarding or memorable?
Guess a moment in my GTC career that was really memorable is obviously getting my first season win. So last season, when I was still captain of Silly, that was the first time we got a season win in GTC, and that felt big because it was the first time we also won a Gorilla Tag competitive activity that involved a monetary as well. But it was also just a very fun team, and at that point, it's really fun to be a captain for. I would say last season, in general, very memorable.
How do you prepare for scrims and matches?
How do I prepare scrims and matches? I'd be lying if I said there's a very thoughtful process behind it. But I think in general, I found that warming up for about 10 to 15 minutes before scrims usually really helps because in the first 10 minutes I tend to mess up more. In terms of matches, I think preparation is a longer process. So what we often do is we get into practice codes and do a lot of self-scrims to figure out what lineup has the best chemistry, what lineup does the best together. And based on that, we make a decision of what lineup is going to represent the team. So I'd say it's kind of both having a lot of warm-ups, but also having a lot of continuous practices to monitor players' progress and how they're playing together.
Nice. That's such a pro answer. What advice would you give to someone who's new to GTC?
I will say that when you're a new monkey starting in Gorilla Tag competitive in general, competitive scene, it can feel impossible to improve a ton and get to the same level as you see the top tier players to be at. But you'd surprise yourself, especially if you don't lose motivation and you dedicate, I'd say, time every single day where you're intentional about how you're playing the game. So by that, what I mean is when we're playing in fun codes and just playing in public lobbies, we usually do the same things things that we're good at. But I'd say if someone dedicates 20 minutes each day to just making a new route or mastering a new mechanic that they're not that good at wall running, then that's the only way to progress more and more until you are a pro yourself. So I'd say even though it feels like a long and daunting process, just staying motivated and staying committed and not losing hope that can be you one day is the biggest thing.
Awesome. I agree with that a lot. As someone who's done a lot of BMX and skateboard related stuff, sometimes just focusing on one thing that you suck at every day while you are goofing around, even if it's 10 minutes, it really makes a huge difference.
Exactly.
When it comes to pro level gameplay and stuff, how do you strategize with your team?
In terms of strategizing with teammates, because I think having team chemistry is what decides whether you win or lose. Like, we've gone against many players who are objectively maybe better in skill individually than some of the players on my team. But I'd say the only thing that we had going all along is team chemistry. So playing a lot together really helps build that chemistry because at one point you don't even need to give each other a lot of call outs. You can have your established tagging pairs and people can just start reading off each other. It's like with me and Dee, since we play together all the time, we don't need to communicate much in game. I can just look at him and see what he's doing and then try to assist him any way I can with cutoff, which really helps building that team chemistry. Making it so you tag people faster, which then opens up the room for you to maybe not have amazing runs and still get a point. So I'd say just building that team chemistry is so key when you're playing professional at a professional.
All right. Makes a lot of sense to me, actually. I was telling Fizzy how I noticed team chemistry was a little bit off with Afterburners yesterday. And I know Grape Juice was having some issues with his headset or whatever, but it's funny to see how team chemistry, but also compatibility with your opponent. If your opponent is all wall players, but your team is amazing at tagging people on the wall, obviously you're going to dominate. So
absolutely. I think what Silly did right with that lineup and the reason why it was such a big blowout is that they were playing together almost every single day for the past 3 months, I'd say. It was definitely every single day. But if you look at the players in that main lineup, you had one really talented wall and ground player, and that was Migusta. You had one True, who's a branch main. You had Deez, who's a double wall main. And you had Levi, who's a tagging main. So everyone brought some unique set of skills to the table, which I think made that lineup so strong, that final.
Definitely. How do you manage nerves and pressure during important matches?
Oh, managing nerves and pressure. I'm the worst person to ask that question because I'm a very baseline anxious person. I'd say just it's all about your thoughts, right? It's not the end of the world if you don't do well in one round or one match or whatever, because that's just one thing and it doesn't define who you are. So just keeping that in the back of your mind, that just one performance does not speak about your skill in game, and that reminding yourself that keeping a calm, cool, collected mind and having fun with it is really what predicts you doing well. At least for me, that's what predicts me doing well. When I'm having fun, I do better. But when I'm in my head and having negative thoughts about myself and my skill, that's when I start selling more. So it's all about mindset, I'd say.
Nice. In your opinion, what sets GTC apart from traditional esports?
And what do you mean by traditional? I'm on the same page.
General esports that I've seen in the past are CSGO or Overwatch or a lot of first-person shooter-related stuff are the bigger esports, or Super Smash Brothers, which is more of an individual thing and not necessarily team-based.
Then I would say what sets GTC apart is takes so many of the elements that make Guerrilla Tech such a great self, right? You have a big social component to it. You also have a big team component to it where you're working with other people to achieve a certain goal, right? It's not just about individual skill, which I think is unique. So I'd say these two factors really set just competitive Gorilla Tag apart. But what sets GTC itself apart from other esports is just how invested I think staff members are in the betterment of the community. And I think it really stems from staff members being comp players who are genuinely just invested in comp and the future of comp, and it really just translates to the growth of GTC. So just having community members who are invested, who are also in staff positions, really just makes GTC such a unique experience as opposed to having it run by people who are not that invested. I don't know if I answered that right. I
No,
tried my
no,
best.
that's perfect. I think that question's a little funny because obviously we're in VR. There's not a ton of VR esports just yet. There's a couple. Vale had a big contest at one point, but like I said, that's that's a shooter, so it's a way different mentality. What's your ultimate goal as a GTC competitor?
Well, I will say there, as a GTC competitor, I think I'm leaving the competition days behind and I'm just going to focus on the league itself and the growth of the league. But that doesn't mean that I still don't want to grow as a player who enjoys comp. I just don't think I'm going to stay and play on teams in the future. So I think that question does not fully apply to me. But in terms of individual goals, I would say I want to continue improving. I've gotten a lot better over the years of playing Gorilla Tag, but I obviously am not at my peak yet, and I don't think anyone can reach their peak easily in this game. So I just want to continue improving myself on skills, challenging myself to do different and new things, even though I don't necessarily aspire on playing.
All right, cool. And then this is a question that Astro came up with, which I don't even know how I overlooked this, but it's a pretty important one. What headset do you prefer to use?
Well, it's not even about preference. I'd say the only thing I've used is Quest headsets. Out of Quest headsets, I would definitely say Quest 2 is much more suited for Gorilla Tag than Quest 3. I think Quest 3 has some really great advantages. In Gorilla Tag, sounds are better, your ability to see is better, just the game quality is better. But if you want to play Gorilla Tag at a higher level, which involves you moving your hands really fast and really hard, I think Quest 3 tracking just does not support that. So for that reason, I default to Quest 2 as my go-to headset. I have also not had a ton of experience playing with PC VR headsets, and I know those have their own advantages. But from a personal standpoint, I'd say Quest 2 for any Quest player starting.
So you're a Quest 2 diehard for competitive then?
Yep.
All right, definitely. It's funny. When I got the Quest 3, I was so mad at how bad the tracking gets in Gorilla Tag because I was like, it's so good. It's so good for streaming.
I know, it's so good. It's just the tracking, and they haven't fixed it.
No, they really haven't. Even right now, if I just throw my hand and put it behind my back, it just is totally gone.
It's just disconnecting.
Which is obnoxious to the max. But I
gave my Quest 3 to Deeze's mom, and now she's playing VR on Ping Pong VR. And apparently it's good for ping pong.
Do you know the name of that game? I had somebody else tell me all about it.
I don't know, but it looked really cool. I'll ask Deeze and have him send it.
Actually, if I remember correct, I think it was Get Hip actually talked about it a whole bunch in one of his videos. Yo, thank you.
Chatting up with Bear.
Deeze, yo!
What's up, Bear?
Ow,
what's
that
up?
was my ear.
Oh, yo, thank you so much for doing this, though, because you're...
I got you.
Fizzy was the first, you were the second, and then Wednesday I got 3 different members of Silly that are going to join me.
Yeah.
Do you want to comment on the finals match of Season 3?
Yeah, I'd say I was really appreciative of all the players because we had them go through some extensive cheat checks that took quite some time, and some people were not too happy with all the requirements that we had, so I do appreciate everyone being patient to make sure that it was a fair final. I was not expecting such a big blowout, but I has been focusing on Vale as a team, so what happens when you slack off on Monkey for a bit. But I'm happy for Silly. I think they really put in the work this season and get that win. Overall, I'd say it was a successful finals, successful season in general, and I think there's just so much more stuff cooking up for next season. That's exciting.
Awesome. Yo, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This was awesome. And it's cool to hear like end and of GTC and like you do more because I see that you've been putting in crazy amount of work. So thank you for that.
Yeah,
Don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up, and hit that bell for notification.